Yes, as I was saying, so a lot of these people who teach about law of attraction, like Bob Proctor, Abraham Hicks, Rhonda Byron, they become like robots. They all sound the
Wonder
same. Now, what
Bar.
they're saying is accurate and it is to be listened to, whether it comes from Bob or whether it comes from Rhonda or Abraham. But they all repeat the same thing. And it's almost like if you learn all the stuff that, say, Bob learned, and by the way, Bob learned from somebody who he used to carry this book around, Think and Grow Rich. So the person
Mm.
Napoleon Hill, he's
Yep.
carried that book around with him his whole life, and the one he carries is like literally 80 years old, right? And this guy taught him. He was like, Bob, you're such a miserable twat. Like you're moaning about your life, you're sick, and then literally from that day onwards, Bob has preached that to millions of people. Now, obviously, it's about the message, not who's repeating it, but you could literally learn that same knowledge and preach it like I could and make a huge career for yourself.
Mm.
um, yeah, they all sound the same, just
Mm.
preaching the same thing. But
Yeah. Well,
message
yeah.
behind it.
They all learn like a either like a set of guidelines or a set of rules or a concept, and then they take that and they run with it. And it's always just to my point. What I was saying to you offline was, um, they're always good storytellers. You never find a preacher, a spiritual preacher, who is not a good storyteller. Because if you're not a good storyteller, then you just can't do it. Because you have to be able to captivate an audience. You have to be able to hold people's attention. You have to be able to make them constantly interested and to buy into what you're saying. And a lot of the concepts and a lot of the guidelines are extremely helpful and they're good. But like if it's one concept, one ideology, and it never changes, then like I'm not that interested in that person. You know what I mean? Because also, no one. What I've started to realize recently is no one's got it all. There is no such thing, at least I don't think, as an enlightened person or a guru who has all the answers. Because the deeper and deeper I go into spiritual leaders and spiritual teachers and things like that, the more I find out that these people have, sordid histories or like, I was just about to start reading a book called TMI. I think it was uh, The Mind Illuminated. And this guy was seen as this a brilliant mind who incorporated science and vipassana meditation. I started reading the book on a recommendation from a friend, and then I started looking into this guy, and I learned recently that he's like got all these allegations against him for like sexual misconduct, and he's been kicked out of like the Buddhism school, and millions of people have fully bought into his concept and his practices, and he considers himself to be enlightened. But to be enlightened, you have to have Sheila, and Sheila is, not have any intoxicants, have good karma, and so he's not practicing what he's preaching. So how could he be enlightened? So I'm not saying the whole concepts and rules are garbage. The concepts and rules that he's preaching are great and they work, obviously. But it's just so funny how people blindly follow so many other people, and most of them are just good at spitting out rhetoric, and have captivating speeches. But I don't think you should ever follow anyone 100%. I just don't think a real guru or a real enlightened person exists.
Yeah, for example, Jesus, right? I don't know much about this, but there's the New Testament and the Old Testament. So it's like, did Jesus write the Bible and then change it and do like a second verse of the Bible, like the Bible 1 and the Bible 2, before he died at apparently 33? Or is the second Bible, the second commandment or testimony, whatever it's called, right?
Yeah,
Second
Testament. Yeah,
Testament, right? Is that written by somebody else? In which case, if
I
people are
think so.
following the
Yeah,
Second Testament, they're not following Jesus's
no,
thoughts and vision. They're following anyone's, because I could literally take The Secret or the Bible or even bloody Hitler's main camp book, right, and take the
yeah,
basis of what he's saying and then make it into my own words. So you're not following Hitler anymore. You're following me. You're not
no,
following Jesus. You're following John or fucking Luke or Muhammad,
yeah,
whoever did it. And on there's the thing called the Mormons on Netflix, which is basically this Christian massive
yeah,
church thing, and
yeah. The
basically
Mormons are
this,
wacky
yeah,
ass, man.
the
I
the
love them.
story of how it was created was some person found some gold in the ground, and
Yeah,
it
Smith.
was a printed
Something.
letter.
Some kid. He was like 14 years old. His name was something Smith. I can't remember. And he found golden plates in his backyard.
Yes, it's like riding his bike, comes across some golden plates buried, and it's like these are the original Mormon things, and then it
Yeah,
pushed, and then the church were trying to
good.
push back and trying to hide it because it was true, it wasn't true, and then this person came along and basically made up copies of this secret book thing, and then he had to kill 3 people via bombs. Then he went to prison. But the point is that people
He
want
killed people
power.
via bombs. What?
Yeah, so these 3 people knew about what
Fucking
he was
hell.
trying to do, and he sent bombs to their office to kill them because they knew that he was a fraud, and he came up with all these like special letters and artifacts or whatever, artichokes, right, from years and years and years ago. And they realized he was a fake, and he had like this
Mm,
amazing system of making things look old. And
mm,
then people knew about him, and he basically killed them off. But the point I'm saying is that it always comes down to power, whether it's church,
mm,
football, whether it's
does.
politics, whether it's a corporation, whether it's gymnastics, it all comes back to power. And if you've built your power off that, then that's what you'll do. For example, if I build my network of followers, let's say, from my podcast, then my power is my voice from my podcast. I
Hmm.
can't then go and create a landscape gardening company and then build a massive followers of people who like gardening and follow my landscape. I could, but the point is
Mm,
that I'd have the power already, have the influence already. So it's not about whether it's a podcast, gymnastics, landscape gardening, politics. It's the feeling of power, and it all comes from like supply and demand. You put something out there, and
mhm,
some people want it, and the more people want it, the more they tell their people, and the more people want it. And that comes down to an acorn creating a
mhm,
tree. That tree creates loads of branches with loads of acorns, and then loads of acorns on the ground, and then there's more
mm,
trees.
mm,
Really, what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter what the niche is. It all comes back down to, through any tribe, any cult, any whatever, is
mm.
the feeling of power. The feeling of
You're
power.
right. You're right.
Even though
And
there's no such thing, it's just the
you're
feeling.
right, and it ties back to the gurus as well because it's the same with these gurus and these enlightened people. That it all ties back to power. You know, the Maharishi who was preaching and who taught transcendental meditation to the West, and there was the Beatles spiritual coach and whatever. He is supposed to be, you know, this free loving guy who doesn't need anything, you know, except for his concepts and rules. And he was going around Western society with just, you know, the clothes on his back and whatever. But when he died, his estate was worth 300 million US dollars. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you know, it's like he did a good thing and he's done a great thing. But just, I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous when these people in these positions pretend like um, all they're about is helping others and free love, when really a lot of what he was doing was about that, but also a lot of what he was doing was about, you know, his feeling of power, his influence, you know, building as many schools as possible, making a lot of money. Like that was a part of it. And I think as long as people own up to it and they're not fucking with other people's lives or messing with other people's lives, sorry, I shouldn't swear on this.
Yeah, of
Um,
course you can. This is a swearing
uh,
podcast.
oh, good.
Say what
Then
the fuck you want, mate.
I like that. Good. Then I don't see a problem with it as long as people are honest. But the funny thing is, people can never be honest. People can never be open. Like, hey, I'm a spiritual guru, but also, you know what? I'm a bit of an egotistical asshole. Like, why can't people just own it? You know, like if you're an asshole and you own it, I'm happy. But if you're an asshole and you're trying to hide it, then you know, then that annoys me. You know,
Yeah, so I'm not an
like admit you want
egotistical.
the power.
Yeah, so I'm not an egotistical asshole to the outside. I am an egotistical asshole in my head, meaning I
Yeah,
want everything.
and
I
that's
want
okay because we
power.
all are.
I want power. I want money. Yeah, I'll have my big house, my boat, my yacht, my cars, whatever. Once I've got my own shit set up, then I can
Mm,
start doing my charitable work. Then I can start
mm,
helping humanity. But it's one
mm.
before two, always. What good
Yeah,
would it be making
I
loads of
agree.
money, giving it all away, and then having nothing? And then you're like, do you mind if I borrow some of that shit? And now it's the opposite.
And they
Anyone who's
wouldn't give it
ever
back.
Exactly. Anyone who's ever had some kind of influence power has always put themselves first, then they've
Yes.
given, because that's just
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, if, as long as you're honest and open, then you'll always be respected. You can't lead an example if you are hiding things. Like I make it my life mission to be brutally honest and blunt and
Mm,
not lie, because
mm,
truth is power. If you lie and someone knows that, they've got power over you. If you've
yeah.
got nothing to hide, you have the power, not over people, over yourself. No one has
Hmm.
anything over you if you
Hmm.
don't lie. And I never, ever, ever lie. And I always put myself in a position where if I was to answer this question or somebody's question, would I be happy to give the truthful answer? If the answer is yes, I'll do it. If the answer is no, I will change the reality of that present moment. So if I am asked that question, I don't have to lie. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, right? That's okay.
I
Because
think
you shouldn't have to tell people every single thing. But if they ask you, you shouldn't need to lie. But at the same time, you it's very tricky actually, because you can't, how are you supposed to live your life without ever lying? For example, if I'm going for a walk and then I decide to use my bike, Mum says, you said you're walking, you lied. No, I decided to use my bike. 10 seconds after, I decided I was going to go for a walk. So I have to then backtrack every single thing that I've said, so that if you ask me again, did you go on a walk? And I said, no, I rode my bike. It's very fucking complicated. And the only reason you have to do that is when you're answering to somebody else. If I'm just
mm,
an animal in the kingdom walking and doing my shit, there's no one to answer to.
mm.
But
Yeah,
it's about feeling empowered, not power over humans. That's crucial.
yes, yeah, and man, I think you're so spot on when you talk about the truth. Um, for me, truth in life is something that's become more and more and more important. And you said something so fucking accurate, which was it's not only not letting people have power over you, but truth allows you to have power over yourself. It allows you to have full sovereignty. It allows you to make the best decisions, because if you're truthful with yourself, then you know exactly where you stand in life, and from there, that's your basis, and from there you can go and grow or change this, because we're malleable. You know, you can fix your life. It's people who fooling themselves are the ones who are so lost, because they don't know where they're at, you know, because they keep tricking themselves every day. They wake up in the morning, they don't like their job, but they're like, oh, this is okay. I guess this is a life I can live with. You know, it's not so bad. They fool themselves for that day. They go through living that life, and then they go to sleep that night. They wake up the next morning, have the same conversation, and they do that until they die. But if you wake up in the morning and you go, you know what? If I'm going to be really damn fucking honest with myself, I don't 100% like the way I'm living. I only get one go on the merry-go-round. Like, I'm going to change things around here. And even though it's going to be hard, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to do some things for the better, you know? Or some people who are extremely overweight and they're going to die from cardiovascular disease, and they just keep lying to themselves, oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Or you could look in the mirror and go, fuck, you know what? If I'm going to be dead set, truthful with myself and honest, I'm fat and I need to change, and I need to fix my diet, and I need to start eating better, or my life is going to be short, you know? And so truth is the ultimate power for a human being, and the easiest person for a human being to lie to is themselves. So it's extremely hard thing to get a grasp on. So it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time, but I think it's one of the most important things someone can wrap their heads around.
Yeah, just like the feeling of going back, say when you're a child, right? Um, and your mum says, "Did you do that? Did you eat that thing?" And you say no. The fact that you just lied to your mum or anybody eats you inside, and over time it builds up
Mm,
a certain energy frequency that makes you feel nervous and anxious, right?
mm,
And then she makes you dinner, and you feel, oh my God, she made me a nice dinner, and I lied to her. That eats up. Now, like a dog, you say to your dog, "Did you eat that biscuit on the side? Did you do that?" And the dog's looking around like guilty, right? Imagine that, but times 100 different things every single day. So your boss says, "Why were you late?" "Oh, the train was delayed." "No, you went out partying last night and you overslept." All these things add up. Your wife or partner says, "Where were you?" "Oh, I was down the pub." "No, you were out in the gym and meeting somebody, but you're hiding the fact that there was somebody there." All of this adds up. Now, if your
mm.
if your thoughts do not match the outside, your brain says liar. Like that voice in your head, well, you'll hear it. "Liar, you fucking liar. What would you ever found out?" Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Mm,
People live with that. I call it the commentator voice. They live with that. And that is basically themselves keeping themselves in check. Now, I don't have that voice anymore because everything I kept in my head is out. I have no
mm,
secrets. It's all out into the universe
mm,
because I know what it was like to keep things inside my head. Not because they were secrets, because I was scared to let them out of being judged or how people would respond to it. Not like I've killed anyone, but just simple shit like sucking a cock once, yeah, or just simple shit like that you're once afraid to say. That when you release
mm,
it, the feeling is like holy shit. There's nothing inside. Imagine like a projector, and everyone can see what's on it. What would you be
Mm.
ashamed of? What would you be fearful of people knowing?
Mm.
So you just gotta go and tick them all off, and then you realize no one gives a shit anyway. No
Yeah,
one
no
gives
one
a fucking sucking
exactly.
cock because they're sucking cock as well,
Exactly. Exactly.
and they're so scared
Exactly.
you're gonna
And
find
that's
out.
exactly. And I think that's the beautiful realization. I'm not 100% out there because I'm not at your level yet, but I try and be as truthful as possible because of that reason. And you're right. The more truthful I become, the more I realize that no one really gives a fuck
It was
about
only
what's going
30
on in my life
seconds,
anyway.
but
And everyone's got their own fucked up shit all going on. They're like, I could tell them something really fucked, and they'd just be like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." Or they'd be like, "Oh wow." For 10 seconds, and then they're probably going and like thinking in the back of their head, having that dialogue going, oh man, is that all he's done? Because I've done some way worse shit. Because everyone's got weird, dark secrets. Everyone's got weird, dark thoughts. It's just an innate quality of being a human being. We're all the same. We've all got the same dark shit bouncing around in our skulls.
exactly. It's like it's a stereotype. I don't even know why it should be. You'd think, okay, guys watch porn, girls don't. I haven't not met a girl to this date who hasn't watched porn and masturbated to porn. Okay,
100%.
I have literally say 20 girls, 20 guys. They've all watched it. Now, what does that say? It says that we are exactly the same, but if you don't ask, you don't know. And like people only kind of give information if they're asked, right? So everyone literally is exactly the same. And I knew somebody once who he lived a lie. He didn't know who he
Mm.
was. I never knew
Oh
who he
man, I know a
was.
lot of people like that.
So many lies that he doesn't even know the lies that he said, right? And so you can keep the game going and sort of just kind of dig them down a hole, or you can just be like, fucking twat, you're lying again, and just move on, right? But
Mm.
living a lie and not knowing what you put out there and what you haven't put out there, that feeling of just that feeling of that person, does he know that I'm lying, or like he says he doesn't know, but does he know? That anxious, that anxiety, that
Mm.
nervousness. I used to
Mm.
live with that my whole life, but just people live with that all the time. Like
Mm.
it's crazy. Just
Mm.
by simply one lie can lead to two, can lead to three. Because once a liar, always a liar. It's like it's too easy just to lie. Now half
Yeah.
your brain is now incorrect. Half of your outside isn't in harmony with the inside. So
Mm.
let's just say you pissed on the floor and then you covered it up with a plant pot, right? And you blame the dog. That's a lie. Every time you walk past it and you see your girlfriend says, "Oh, you're gonna do that," the dog's pissed on it. Put the dog outside in the cold. She needs to learn a lesson, and you can't say
Mm.
it was you. But now your dog is in the freezing cold because you lied to your partner. That's a guilt thing, and all this guilt
Mm.
builds up cortisol, adrenaline, disease, like trapped in your muscles, disease
Mm.
toxins, all from one little lie, which I call the acorn of a lie tree. I just made it up actually. The acorn
I
of a
like
lie
that.
tree. And every acorn on that tree is now part of a lie. And then you just can't fucking stop them just dropping and then creating more acorn lie trees. And the only way to stop lying is to basically come out with every single piece of lie that you ever lied about until you
Mm.
have truth out there. Let it settle,
Yeah.
let people respond to the fact that
Yeah.
you do this and you do that, and then you'll feel so free.
Yeah. And I think it's a practice too. You need to practice being honest. I think if you're once, because I used to lie all the time when I was younger and constantly, and it was just an automatic trigger.
Yeah.
If my parents, it was usually to my parents, but if someone would ask me a question, if someone asked me a question, if my mum would ask me a question, my automatic, like, immediate response would just be to like make up a lie because it was just easier, you know? And then it took me years to like grow out of that and stop myself and go, no, 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 let's be just truthful here. And people appreciate honesty, even if you have gone out and gotten pissed the night before, stayed up all night on the piss, and then don't come into work the next day. Like, you know, yeah, you can lie to your boss, but you'd be, if you got a good relationship with your boss, you'd be surprised how much they appreciate honesty. Like everyone makes mistakes. If you go, look, you know what? I was catching up with an old friend. I got caught up. I know I fucked up. I feel miserable about it. I'm sorry. People would be surprised how much honesty is appreciated because deep down inside, your boss knows he probably knows you pretty well if you've been working there for a few years. And deep down inside, he knows exactly what your voice sounds like when you're telling the truth and when you're lying, or what type of person you are. So he could deep down inside, he can tell, he kind of knows that you're making shit up. You know what I mean? So like, you might as well just be honest with him, and further cement his trust, because you'd probably gain trust because he's not used to people telling him that sort of truth. So he'd probably trust you even more. People would be surprised, really surprised, if you just let it go. Yeah.
It's true. That's what I'm trying to say. Truth is power. If you
Yeah.
lie, okay, they have something over on you. And how would you feel if Satan is in your wardrobe whilst you're trying to sleep? You're going to be thinking, shit, what if he comes out at night time? What if he touches my balls? Like, you're thinking, shit, Satan is in the cupboard. You're going to be shit scared he's going to come out. I know from experience that when I used to work for my first ever job, right, I used to tell the truth every single time. Didn't even have to blink, right? And all they could say was, well, can you not do that? So,
Yeah.
for example, imagine I've taken a cheesecake out the fridge in a restaurant, or I helped myself to a chicken wing, right, on the grill. Shouldn't do it, right? Most people lie, and I watch the manager know that that person's lied to them, and he knows he can't do anything about it because what's he going to do? Punch him in the face? No, he's at work. But now he then makes that person clear the tables more, and rather than me, and I chat with the manager, he makes him clean the tables. He gets pricky about it because Oliver's not doing anything. But then it comes like a punishment for lying, and now it's just like war. Whereas me, for example, I would say, yeah, I took the ticking ring. It was really nice. You should have had one. And all they can say is, well, can you not please? Now, I wouldn't do that again because it betrays their trust. They have let me off. You don't do the same thing twice and expect them to be as nice, right? So I wouldn't do the chicken wing. What I then do is I'll do some chips. So if they say to me, can you not eat that? You said I couldn't eat the chicken. I ate the chips. So basically, you just keep doing the same thing once, right? But the point is this, that I used to be honest straight away. And all they said was, can you not? Yeah, that's it. There was no arguments. There was no, you're lying to me. Don't lie to me. People are human too. They are a manager. They will once say below you. They have lied before. They've gotten up late. They've got drunk. They fucked the boss's wife. Everyone's the same person, just at a different point in their life. People admire blunt honesty if people understand that honesty gets you so much further. For example, if someone says to you something, don't lie to them. Just say, I'm not going to tell you. You don't have to tell anyone shit. Don't lie. Just say, I don't want to tell you. Don't have to tell you. Don't lie because you're digging a hole unnecessarily. Unnecessarily. And people say, you're lying to me if you don't tell them. If you don't choose to voluntarily tell somebody something, unless you have an agreement to tell them, you're not lying. A lie is where you say, did you eat a pineapple? And if you did, you say no. That is a lie. You do not have to tell people, did you eat a pineapple? Right? You say, you didn't tell me you ate a pineapple. You're lying to me. You're not my fucking boss or my mother or God. I don't have to tell you shit if I ate a pineapple. But if they say, can you let me know if I had a pineapple? Because I might need to put it on the shopping list to get another one. Then if you don't tell them, it's not really a lie. It's just you broke your agreement. You know what I mean? So if that's not even a lie. So people have this really wrong concept of what is a lie. And a lie is a direct, incorrect answer to a direct question.
Yeah. And well, what do you think the main drive behind someone who's lying is? Is it they're afraid of the reaction of the other person? Is that it? Is that what we're afraid of?
I think it's they are afraid of how that person will respond, or it is that
Why are we
person,
so afraid of that?
or that person is guilty and that they knew they shouldn't have done it in the first place. So onto the first bit, why are they scared of a reaction? Again, it comes
Why
back
are we
to
afraid of a reaction?
not being able to handle a negative response, a
Yeah.
negative energy. So, for
And why
example,
can't we handle a negative response? That's the weird
well,
thing. Why not?
just imagine you've got a magnet, north and south, right? If you put the north and the south together, hang on, if you put two norths together, they repel. If you put two souths together, they repel, right? If you put the north and the south and twist it round to the opposite, it becomes one, it attracts. So it's kind of, did you do it? Yes, I did, right? So it's already in harmony. So if you're thinking that the other person is not going to be in harmony with what you've just done, then it flips round to the north and the north and the south and the south, which it repels. So
But why
if you,
why does it repel? That's my question. Why are we so afraid of that? Like, why are we afraid of a negative response from someone? Like, a lot of life is really hard. Why is that something we're so afraid of? Like other people's opinions of us? So what if
it's
some,
so so for example, if you have a boss, right? Anyone below them in the rank of command is scared to say something to their boss, right? But their boss can happily tell them to do this and do that. But they can't tell their boss do this and do that. However, if, for example, you've got a entrepreneur like me who started at the bottom of a company and knows he can run the company, but he's got to go through management. That person's a manager because he is in a management role, not because he can manage and lead. So I could tell every manager, from the regional manager to the CEOs, all the way to the top, what to do confidently because I'm supposed to be running the business and they're supposed to follow me. It just so happens that I'm at the bottom of the chain of command. So it comes down to energy vibration. Who has the strongest energy to absorb all the small energies? For example, if you did something and you're my manager, right? And you're higher energy than me, then your energy kind of dominates mine. Okay, I can't hold eye contact with you because your force is stronger than mine. So now if I do something, I'm scared of the response. I'm not going to be able to respond. If you say, "Why did you do that?" I'm stuttering. Okay, it's like you're staring at
Yeah,
me,
I've been in
you're
that
taking
position
over my
before.
energy, and I can't speak because you're kind of staring at me, waiting for me to respond. And I haven't got the energy because by you observing me, you're taking away my energy to process information to respond. Whereas if
Mm,
I have higher energy than you, kind of like Hungry Frogs, Hungry Hippos, the game, right?
mm,
There's a big
mm-hmm,
hippo, it's going around the board eating all the balls. Okay? That's what happens to somebody if they have higher energy compared to the person who doesn't. They kind of absorb their energy, right? Like a
mm,
big whale being eaten by a massive blue whale, right? That blue whale can kind of take the mass of that big whale, whereas the
mm-hmm,
one below can't can take the mass of a dolphin, but the dolphin can't take the mass of the whale. It's all to
mm-hmm,
do with the size, but in terms of energy, if you can handle your parents' energy because you are kind of you've outsmarted them, then if they tell you off, you can take it and give it back. Whereas if you're a child, your parents have got the strongest energy,
mm,
you can't take it back. And it's all to do
mm,
with the energy. If you are speaking to somebody and you feel guilty, there's a reason. You shouldn't have done it, or you can't handle their response. So you know that, and so therefore you don't want
mm,
to say what you did because you know how it's gonna react. It's almost like if
mm,
your mum's gonna go mad if you've been, if your bedroom's messy, then you kind of avoid that situation because you're not gonna be able to win
yeah.
because um yes. So it's all to do with the not being able to handle the energy of that person's brain.
Mm,
So the
yeah,
strength of their
okay.
character, their soul,
I
their fierceness.
I get that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think you're pretty accurate with a lot of that. I've also met a lot of people who actually, when I think about it, maybe they do. But I've met a lot of people who I feel like don't give a fuck, like who they lied to or who they offend, or there's a few people out there in this world, right? Like that you meet sometimes and you're like, whoa, like you really don't give a shit. Like, they pee, like going back to, they come home drunk one night, they pee on the floor, they blame it on their dog stays out in the cold all night, but they don't give a shit, so what's going on with those people, let's use Trump for an example. Let's say that guy, someone who's clearly like doesn't seem to be affected by anything, not even millions of, hundreds of millions of people disliking them or, harming people, indirectly through policies. Like, what's going on with those people, man? Because we all know people like that in our lives. I used to work in real estate and property, and I've worked with a lot of people like that, like narcissistic tendencies. They don't care who they lie to or who they screw over. They're an interesting bunch.
A lot of the time, they are a reflection of their father, right? And they are a reflection of their father. And eventually,
Mm,
one of the father figures along the way, even could have been an uncle or a grandfather, is just the dominant male role of the family head at some point, okay? At Christmas time, if you've got the grandfather who's like the head at Christmas, if he's an arrogant prick who's lying, all the men below, cousins, uncles will see that because you look up to the person above. But why did that person start to be like that? Right? Eventually, it would have had to be created rather than learning it or feeling pressure to be a certain way. For example, it could have been he was a young kid and he found some money on the floor and his friend says, "I've just dropped my money. Did you see it?" He goes, "No." He feels powerful. He's gotten away with it. So now he's kind of lied once. He's gotten away with it.
mm,
It's easier now to lie and get away with it. And so now that comes down the generations of the father figures and the man down the chain. And when your dad's lying, right? He might even be like, "Yeah, I'm lying to your mother, but don't tell her." And now you
Mm.
sort of see that as okay. And now these people are a certain energy vibration, like attracts like. If you got an estate agency prick, it's all about BMW in his car and he's going to be the top salesman of the month. He's going to be around other cunts. Why? Because it takes a cunt to know a cunt, right? You're not going to be around
Mm.
some person you can see through your bullshit. At the same
Mm.
time, you're not going to be around a bigger of a cunt than you because you're not going to feel comfortable. So you're going to be
Mm.
around another twat who's like you. So you are in harmony with them. So a leopard's going to hang with the leopard, sheep with the sheep, a dog with the dog. You're not going to get a giraffe hanging with a kangaroo, for example, yeah, or you know, um, you know what I'm trying to say? A parrot with
Yeah.
a frog. You hang with
Yeah.
the same. So now you've got
You're
these
saying
arrogant
hang with
pricks
people
at
on your
work.
frequency. Mm.
Yeah, arrogant pricks at work. And if someone like you who's pure and knows who they are comes in, your energies are going to be indifferent. You're now going to be
Mm.
the zebra mixing with a fucking frog. And now
Mm.
you're going to feel that nervous energy.
Mm.
Um, so that's why people become like that. They follow it and they learn it, but it comes from something happening which gives you a sense of power. It's almost like if you take heroin, your body's going to be used to heroin. If you suck a cock, your body's going to be like, oh, shouldn't have done that, but that gave me a feeling. Or if you have a whole bag of Pringles, oh, the MSG in this, the Chinese, oh my God, mushrooms, cigarette. It's a feeling that your body didn't have 2 seconds ago, which now it has. If it feels good, you want more of it. If it doesn't feel good, you won't. And if
Mm.
lying and feeling powerful in that moment feels good, it's a drug. You get that boost of like, ha, fuck you.
Mm.
You don't know I was lying to you. Serotonin builds up. Now what? And generations come down. Before you know it, you've got the grandchild of a fucking dickhead at the top, also a twat.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And yeah, once you get deep enough in it, I guess it's really hard to get back out to break that pattern. Like once you've been lying for years, been screwing people over for years, you're not stuck, but unless you have a huge mental click, a huge mental change, something to crack your brain to break you free, you're probably going to be that person forever and pass that down to the next generation.
It's scary. Just imagine you're 30 years old, right? And I knew somebody since they were, say, 18, and I know he's been lying, and the lies that he's lied about, which he's still lying about now, for 12 years. How the fuck can you go back to everyone you ever knew, grandparents, cousins, family, friends, neighbors, and be like, by the way, I said that that neighbor trod on your grass and killed your tulips? That was me. Oh, by the way, when I was 14 and I stuck my finger in the cheesecake? Well, I put some bogeys in it. How the fuck do you go back and undo 14 years of shit?
Mm,
Unless you have an awakening, as you said, or a fucking
mhm,
breakdown.
mhm.
No one is going to choose to kind of just go back. It's like going to America on holiday and you think, fuck it, I'm just going to go home and get a tent in the garden. Like, but you're in America. No, I'm going to go home. I'm just going to get a flight home and go in the garden in a tent. You can't. The universe goes forward. Energy increases in mass. The sun gets hotter. Energies attract and get bigger. It doesn't go back. The earth doesn't go left. It goes
Mm.
right. So humans are supposed to go forward, not left. So really, people can't change unless they have a reason to, and millions, billions don't have a reason to because unless you have a reason to, there is no reason to. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, people who don't have a reason to are part of the motion of just following. They're just following. They're just going to be following. I think you said this once. A follower to the Following the food master to the death of a mountain. Do you remember you said that in the last podcast? We're all following a. We're following the food monster to the death of a mountain, something like that. Just
Something like that,
eating and
yeah.
eating and eating and eating, and
Mm.
you just die of being fat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we got a world of sheep, man. That's what this world has, at least in our world, that in Western society and Western civilization, that's what the go is, man. Everyone's following the leader. It's the easiest way to live, but everyone everyone who's following the leader and everyone who's just following their next door neighbor and competing with them and doing what makes sense to them in terms of their social construct and what they were brought up with, I think are surface level happy, but have this deep seated misery somewhere deep down inside that they push deep, deep down every morning when they wake up. Going back to what I was saying before, they wake up, they think, this 9 to 5 job, this life I'm living, is it okay? Well, I'm kind of happy. I guess I'm kind of happy. I guess I can do it if I have to, and then I can go get hammered on the weekend, have a mad time, and I'll live out my life like that. It goes back to what we're talking about with truth. Like, everyone's feeling that it's okay to bend the truth a little bit and just get through life instead of really taking a hold of life and using creative intelligence and finding a different way to live and thinking outside of the social construct that you're brought up in. It's just easier to follow, well, at least a lot of people think it's easier to follow, and they're too afraid to break free. So we do have that society, with that sheep mentality, man. It's everywhere because it's fear driven. People are afraid to break free because once you break free of social norms, you're a little bit lost, because then you have to really know who you are and know what you personally think is good or is bad or is right or is wrong, or what the proper way to live is, or the proper way to construct your job and your living with your free time. And because everything is told to us at the moment, your life is this pattern. It's 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and your free time's on the weekend. And a 7-day week doesn't really exist. Time doesn't even really exist. The only thing that exists is this current moment in time, this exact moment in time right now that's constantly exploding, and a multitude of things are happening constantly, one after the other, and we have no rhyme or reason as to why. There's no such thing as a 7-day week. So once you break free of those social constructs, you've got to decide, okay, how many days a week am I supposed to work? What's a week? When am I supposed to work? Okay, so 9 to 5 doesn't exist anymore. So what works for me? And so that's when you really have to know who you are and what you think is the right thing and what you enjoy doing and what you find right and wrong. And people find themselves extremely lost once they remove themselves from the social norms, because the social norms dictate everything for them. They tell them what's right and wrong. They tell them what's good or bad. They tell them what work they should be doing and how they should be doing it and who they should be dating and why they should be dating them. So to break free of that, but you really have to be truthful with yourself. Know what you feel deep down inside. Do I think that's right? Do I think that's wrong? And find out who you really are, so you can figure out how you can use your creative intelligence and exist outside this paradigm that we've been brought up in.
So I've not done my research on this to say confidently that this is accurate, and obviously nothing is a fact. Fact is something that's been believed by the majority, so it's just seen as fact, or science have ended with this outcome,
100%.
and if they chase it, they might find they were wrong. So nothing is a fact. But
Nothing.
if you go back to tribes of humans, right, emperors and kings, and tribes of animals, right, and even in fish in the ocean, and big like stars with a massive amount of mass and energy sucking all the other small bits of matter and dust. Everything in this life has a power leader, and the rest follow. I've realized through being at school, right, when people say to me, don't follow, think for yourself, and then you look back at these people and you realize these people have nothing, and then you realize, are we supposed to follow, or is it a choice? And then you realize, you look at the animal kingdom, you look at tribes, Jesus, monk, Buddha, every single thing has a dominant, say, particle, and there's millions or thousands of small ones below. People are going to follow. Animals will follow one animal. There's always a head of a matter. There's always a big oak tree and loads of small oak trees. Let's just say there was loads of oak trees planted at the same time. The one that gets a head start, which gets the most nutrients, will dominate the roots underground, and the other ones will die, right? And over time, there's small ones that come along, and because they're so small, they they've got enough room to grow without affecting the big tree, because he's just got such power sucking nutrients that's not these small trees aren't going to affect him. So there's a big tree amongst small trees. If you look at anything, there's always, say, 100 followers to one leader. It's not something that is created by man. It's not something that people can learn to do. Like, you can't just be told not to follow, be yourself. It's literally written in the stars. For example, I've noticed, for example, that people with high energy leaders, right, they all have a certain confidence, right? The
And they're
planets
all very
that were
similar.
exactly. So
All
why is
leaders
that?
are very
The
similar.
planets that were around when I was born, say my sun rising and whatever, okay, I've done my human design, and I'm 3 times rarer, or my pattern is 3 times rarer, or my genetic code is 3 times rarer than the average person, which will make sense why I am like I am, how I just do what I'm doing and I never fit in. So if that is the case, because of the planets that I'm like I am, and the reason why everyone else follows is because they didn't have the same planets, and 99% of humans have X, Y, and Z planets, but all the leaders have X, Y, and A planets. It's all because of the planets. And what do I mean by this? When the leaders were born, there was such charge in the atmosphere, okay, that they had a certain energy when they were born. When the planets fuck off and then the other person's born, or the other tree's born, or the other animal's born, these people have lower vibration. Their vibration is based on these other planets, different to the planets of a leader. The leader had, say, 3 planets charging, say, 100%. The other people, other animals, other acorns on the planet, when they were born or created, they only had, say, 63% chance charge, 42% or 28%. So now these are weak energies which will be attracted by the dominant energy, which is the leader. So humans can't just learn to lead or to follow, just like an acorn can't choose whether it's going to dominate the ground or it's going to be absorbed by the other acorn. Just like a big elephant isn't going to have 4 other elephants trying to take charge. You might have one, but then they'll fight it
Mm,
out and then they'll just sort of put themselves in the position. But there's always multiple of smaller followers with one leader. And it's not a
mm,
human thing. It's just the way it is. Like
mm,
you can look at anything. Birds. There's always one V at the bird. There's a V at the front. Okay, look at birds. There's a V, the bird at the front, and the rest follow behind. Animals,
mm,
fish. There's always one fish diving around, and they're all following the
mm,
follower. And so I was going to say, people don't follow the leader; they follow the follower because of how the pack will go against you if you're not
mm,
seen following. That's why you
mm,
see elephants and like David Attenborough programs, where if one elephant does something, the whole tribe go against them. It's not the
mm,
leader that necessarily will kind of push the elephant away. If the other elephants see that that other elephant isn't part of them, they will
mm,
feel nervous and they
mm,
will reject it.
mm. True. And the beautiful thing is you can choose who you want to follow, but you're right, it does make it more difficult. My pack is white middle class Australia, so and so been brought up in that social construct and in that paradigm. And the more I remove myself, the more difficult it becomes. And I think that's the main fear. It's people don't want to lose their community. And I haven't lost any of my community. It's more just people, um, I suppose you get two extremes. You lose touch with some people because you're not on the same frequency anymore. They're working this 9 to 5 and they've got all these ideals and all these things, thoughts on how the world should be and how everyone should be living. And those are just other people's thoughts. They're just repeated thoughts of like, they're either lefties and liberals and they're just repeating the same dialogue that the left say on the news and on the media and whatever. And they're just talking about the same shit and they're just talking about the news all the time and the way the world works all the time. And I'm like, get your head out of that. Like the world's so much bigger than this little social construct, this little society that you're talking about. And so you lose frequency with those people and you move away, but or you push apart. But I find that I also became closer with my immediate friends because the more real I am and the more honest I am with myself and the more I remove myself from this society, the more they're like, oh, you can do that? That's a thing. And the more they're attracted to me because they want me to pull them with me because they're like, oh shit, man, can you show me a peek into that world? Like, can you show me a peek into the world of, psychedelics or meditation or all these concepts and subjects that I've explored deeply, but they've never had the chance to because they've always been too caught up with the real world. And they want to hold on to me and want me to drag them out, with me. So there's two extremes, but yeah, I think you're right. No matter what you're doing, there's followers and there's groups. Like even though I'm breaking free from the social constructs and norms of the society that surrounds me, I'm going and following. someone else. I'm going and doing Vipassana, so I'm following, Goenka, the founder of Vipassana meditation, or I'm following, like certain authors and certain podcasters, and all these people, but they're just different people to follow. But yeah, you're right. But we have the option and the choice to choose who we follow and why we follow them. And I think the only way you can make that decision is to look inside yourself, be 100% honest and truthful with yourself, and find out how you really feel about things and who you really want to follow, who you're really interested in, what resonates with you inside. You can't make decisions with this. In ancient cultures, they refer to the brain or liken the brain to a fishing net. It's fucking tangled and all over the place. You know what I mean? You can never make sense of anything because you've got you've got the duality of the mind. You've got things that are happening immediately and that you're saying out loud, and then you've got that dialogue running in the back, and it's just bouncing around. You need to make decisions that resonate with your gut. You need to make decisions with your heart, with your stomach, and you'll know when you feel it. And when you become conscious of that, and when you can start making those decisions and start making truthful decisions, you'll know who you need to follow and why you need to follow them, or what things in life really resonate with you, really interest you, and which direction you really want to go in.
So imagine like you've grown up around a room full of red, right? You've been in a house, all you've known is red wallpaper, yeah? Now, when you go out and about and you suddenly see a different color like blue, your brain's going to be confused because all you've ever known and seen is red wallpaper, right? So it could go both ways. You'll think, fuck it, I want to change from red. I'm going to have blue, orange, pink, whatever. Or it'll be like, shit, I'm only used to red. I don't feel safe around blue or pink. So you're going to make your rest of your life in your rooms red. So if you're used to something, or if you've been exposed to something for so long, like a heroin person, it's just had so much heroin inside them that their body's only functioning on heroin. It's hard to break out of that pattern and take anything else. It's hard to have any other color other than red, to the point where you go outside, you see different colors, you go back inside to your red house. Evolution. It's like if you have a mushroom and you put some fungus on a tree, that's going to spread. If you put a weed in a flower bed, yeah, and another weed grows, another weed grows, another weed grows, it's going to be so hard to maintain, and there's just going to be weeds everywhere. Life is about creating more of what it is. And so once you've gone down the path of lying and hiding things and being a certain way, that's kind of stuck. Like life is about growing, manifesting, and duplicating like cells. That it's hard to then go back and remove those cells, remove those weeds, remove that fungus. It's almost like you've killed somebody, all their blood's in the car, you've wiped everything, but there's still one patch of blood somewhere on a microscopic cell level that can get you arrested to prove that you killed that person. That one thing is so hard to go forward when you're already part of something, because life is about growing from what you are or what you were.
What do you think the best way, or how do you think the best way is to grow and move forward?
Well, I do believe there's two types of humans. We're all human beings, but there's two types of humans. There's the positive vibration humans, negative vibration humans. Negative vibration humans, their biology is different. They have disease, and from disease, your body operates differently to somebody who doesn't have disease, right? Somebody who, what was your question?
How do you think a human being can move forward? Like what is the best way for someone to move forward, to break free of that, and actually move forward in a positive way?
So somebody who's a positive person, who wants to lead, who wants to do something with their life and doesn't follow, they just have to follow more of the people that they want to be. And then once you become more of that person, you'll see other people like them, and then you'll go to that person, and then you'll go to that person, and then you go to that person. So for me, it was Darren Brown, Russell Brand, Trump, Richard Branson, Jobs, Elon Musk, and before you know, I'm basically all of them together because I'm seeing what they're seeing, I'm thinking how they're thinking, I'm talking how they're talking. I basically am those people, right?
Yeah, you're collecting that information, you're taking what makes sense to you, and you're attaching it to yourself and moving forward and finding more people.
Whereas the other side of humans, which is what the 90% of humans that are negative and followers, they are only going to follow what they've only ever known what their family have ever followed, whose
Mm,
family ever followed, and their family followed, and their family followed. And it's just they're all following. It's like a dog following its tail.
mm,
They
mm,
are always going to be following
mm,
their
mm.
tail because their uncle's following its tail, the
Yep,
cousin is, the sister is, the mother is, the fucking neighbor is, the people at school are,
yep.
the person in the restaurant is. Why? Because you're not going to be around people following their tails if you don't have a tail because you're thinking, what the fuck are they doing? What is that on their bum? So they're
You're
not going to
outside
be
looking
there.
in, going, "What the hell are they
So
doing?"
everyone's going to be following their tails and they don't know any different, and that's fine. That's just the
Mm,
way it is. They
yeah,
are going to follow their tails and they're just going to continue to eat fish and chips and kebab meat and microwave food and have Coke for dinner because that's all that they've ever known. That's what their parents did, their grandparents did, their cousins did, their friends at school did. All their uncles have no teeth because they've been drinking Coke. They're all fat. So you need to be
it's
fat
just
because you're skinny with a good body. Then you're going to
yeah.
feel different to them because they're massive and you've got a good body. And so you're thinking, shit, I need to eat food because I need to fit in. And it's like you're going to fit in or you're not. And that other side is following the follower.
Mm,
You no
yeah,
fault of your own. It's just science.
yeah, and it's I know so many people like that, and it's just a negative feedback loop. Like they're the ones who are always on social media, always watching political news, and like when you really remove yourself from that and look from the outside in, you're like, it's all just garbage. Like politics is just a fucking mess. It's just grown men and women acting like 4 year olds, and you have to
80 year
remove,
olds.
yeah,
80 year olds.
yeah, and you have to remove yourself from it and look from afar to really understand that. So what's the point of buying into what they're saying when you know all of them are lying, all of them are just talking complete garbage, all of them are just saying whatever they think you want to hear constantly. None of them have to keep their election promises. None of them have to really actually do anything to benefit the country and rarely do. And so, like, what's the point of getting so involved with all the complete negative shit that they're talking about all the time and buying into it when it's just it's nonsensical anyway? Like, just remove yourself from that. But it's a lot like what you were saying. Like, a lot of negative people, they just love having that negative feedback loop. They feed on it. They like that. They like that bad news. That it interests them. They're like, "Oh my god, this is going on, and this is going on." And did you hear about this person's policy? And it's like, who gives a fuck, man? Like, who gives a shit? And they're the same people eating the shit, and they're in that never-ending loop, aren't they? Of just like negative shit entering their body. Social media, just they're sucking it up all the time, getting the clicks, getting the likes, getting the. It's man, it's a dark place to be in, man. And a lot of people are in it, but they don't realize it, or they realize it and they're not truthful enough with themselves to remove themselves from it and go, okay, fuck this, and live a different way now. You
One
know.
of the most fascinating things about Trump is he has no holes in his garden. He will dig loads of holes, right? And then spend time filling them up to pat himself on the back.
Filling them
I
up
did
with
I
shit.
did a good job. I did a good job filling this hole. So with the media, for example, he will create problems to then counteract and defend to give himself credit of I beat that reporter, for example, not judging or for or against him, just as an observation. It is quite amusing to watch a dog like bury a hole to bury his bone, to then try and find it later. It's what Trump does, but he has loads of bones at one go. And he's like, buried it over there, buried it over there. Fuck, I've forgotten that bone. Shit, there's that bone. Fuck, there's another one. Media reporters, bang, 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 bang. It's just, it's funny to see somebody create so many holes
It's
to then
amazing,
fix
man.
and then give themselves credit for fixing the problem. It's just amusing.
And then so many people, but so many people like so fascinated with what he's saying. They love him or they hate him, and it's like everything that comes out of his mouth is garbage. Like why do you love him or hate him? Why do you think anything? And like why are you even listening to him? You know what I mean? And I got to be honest, I like reading it every now and then, but I like reading about him every now and then just because I'm so in awe of like someone like him could exist. You know what I mean? He's like this, TV celebrity turned fucking president. He's clearly narcissistic. He's like Teflon. He's the slipperiest person on earth. He's like, you can't, he's done so many illegal things, but he's still not in jail. Like, he's clearly a horrible person, but no one can get him on anything. He lies constantly and gets away with it. Like, he's just, I'm fascinated in the psychology of that man. Like, he's just He's on another planet, dude. He's
So
an
I've
alien.
got a question for you based on that.
Yeah.
What you've just said, if that is the case, maybe he has got nothing to hide. Maybe he isn't lying. Maybe everything he's saying is so true that it's so unbelievable that people have nothing on him. So they've got to create stuff to try and take him down because he has nothing on himself. So it's the opposite.
Mm.
So,
I think.
so what
Well,
do you
I think
reckon?
it's a combination of the two. I think he's very polarized because a lot of things he says are just straight truth, and they are real. And even though it's not PC or whatever people want to call it, he's right. You know, there's a lot of shit he says that's seemingly fucked up, but really, he's just being honest. But in our society, you know, you're not supposed to say those things. So everyone's like, everyone on the left's like, oh my god, did you just say that? Oh my god. I think it's a combination of the two. I think it's a combination of that, and then there's a combination of a whole bunch of other things. He's just a horrible cunt. Like he's both those things. He's just a man who's just deeply, deeply in it for himself and his family, and loves to lie. I think he's just a straight narcissist, you know, and that's why he says a lot of truths, because he's not afraid of saying the truth, whether or not, you know, it hurts someone, but he's also not afraid to lie. So a lot of truths, a lot of hard truths come out of his mouth that people don't want to swallow, but also a lot of huge lies come out of his mouth, you know, that people do swallow, you know. So it's a mix of the two. And but I guess to expand on that, you know, I don't think Biden's any better, you know. That guy's a fucking idiot, you know. And he's also a scumbag, and you know, like a lot of people really loved Obama and thought he was the greatest just because he was such a good public speaker and he was very charismatic and had a really friendly smile. But he did a lot of horrible. He did heaps of horrible things, man. He was the one who ordered all these drone strikes that killed tens of thousands of innocent people. The vast majority were innocent people. He's the one who was attacking whistleblowers that came out, like Snowden, you know, who were just giving the public information on the fact that the US were recording everyone's conversations and text messages and huge data storage facilities, and he basically crucified him and trying to lock him away forever. So he's attacking like whistleblowers and people who were trying to do things for the good, but he's going out there giving great public speeches, and everyone thought he was so great. They're all horrible. You know what I mean? Like it's the whole
Right.
thing's a mess.
Let's wrap this up.
Anyway,
Anything you want to promote?
um, I'm working on a documentary film at the moment. I'm actually going to start my project again next week. I cycled from Sydney to Queensland.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which is a long, 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 long way because Australia is a big ass country. It's called Down Under the Skin, and I interviewed all these interesting characters that I meet along the way. You know, to find out, you know, what they do, why they do what they do, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. Listen to their life story, so the viewer can, you know, see themselves reflected in the person I'm interviewing and see, you know,
Wicked.
what they want to take away. You know, how they think they should live their lives differently. Um, so that's coming out probably at the back end of this year. But I will say this: a good way to get in touch with me is via my email address, because I got a couple of messages after my last podcast with you
Did you
on
really?
on
That's wicked.
Instagram.
Tell me more, because I
Yeah,
never hear this. I have no idea whether people reach out to guests or they don't. So tell me
yeah,
more. That's
yeah.
wicked.
It was really cool. A lovely girl messaged me. She was so sweet. She said, "Oh, I can't remember because I got a terrible memory, but it was something along the lines of, "Oh, it was. I really enjoyed your podcast with Oliver. I really, you know, a lot of what you said really resonated with me. It was really amazing, and it's changed the way I think. And I'm gonna, you know, be different moving forward, and I'm gonna, you know, change my life moving forward. Something along the lines of that." Um,
How many people reached out?
and it was a couple. Yeah,
What,
just a
two?
couple, and they're both like pretty much the same. Just, you know, I enjoyed the
Wicked.
podcast, da 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 da, and I didn't see the message for like 2 months because I've got an Instagram account, but I don't
Yeah, I
use it.
fucking messaged you about a month ago to do a podcast. In fact, I messaged you when our last podcast came out and you didn't even reply.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I've got an Instagram account, but I don't use it. I look at my inbox messages probably once every couple of months or every few months. Um, So if anyone wants to have ask me any questions or get in touch with me at all, reach me at my email address, which is Alex ALEX M for Mary .Ugarte UGARTE @gmail.com. Yeah, and shoot me an email and I'll respond.
In 160 episodes, I've never once had somebody come back to me saying that somebody had somebody reach out to them from doing,
Yeah,
because I get a few occasionally, but not that much. But I've never
yeah.
heard anyone say that they've had it. So that is very interesting.
Yeah. It was, out of all the things I'm doing and out of all the things I've done, I had a podcast when I was traveling through Central America a couple of years back, and every now and then, maybe like once a month, I'd get like I'd release an episode like every week, and then a few monologues scattered in amongst that, and probably on average, maybe even a bit less, maybe like let's say once every like 6 weeks, I would get just one message from one person, and that would like fucking slingshot me to the moon. I'd be so ecstatic and so elated for the longest time, and it was all worth it. At the time I was struggling, had no money, was barely eating, living like a bum, and one message would just make it all worthwhile. Someone just been like, "Hey, man, thank you for that." Like,
Yeah.
I've
So
changed.
so like you rarely get any, but I got one from this person, and I'm sure she'll be ecstatic to hear me read this out, right? But this is what she said. One sec.
It feels so good, doesn't it? Such a dopamine
Yeah,
hit.
just like out of the blue, randomly. So it's like you've helped me way more than you realize. Listening to your podcast has actually saved my life and changed my life in a matter of 5 minutes. I always said from the day I started listening to you that I'd love to have a conversation with you and pick your brain, because the thoughts and realization you bring out of me, my being, are insane. Like that's amazing, right? And that was
That's
from
great.
somebody called Jay.
And
So
it
yeah,
just makes it just makes it all worthwhile, man. Like, it just, that one message is everything. To hear from someone, I don't know, I'm sure you feel the same way. It just means, that's everything. That's what we're doing here. That's the point of it. It's to, yeah, it is an ego. What we're doing is an egotistical boost, and we both love it, and we both love talking, and we both love fucking rhetoric and conversations and all this information. Love putting it out there, but apart from all that, there is a huge part of it which is just about wanting to help people. And when you finally, and you don't know really whether or not you're helping people until you hear from them. And when you hear
yes,
from them, they're like,
exactly.
"Oh, you know what? The shit that you're dribbling that's coming out of your mouth helped me in a big way or a small way, either or." And that feels so good.
We're literally just ranting our nonsense in our head, but yeah, it's changing people. Like I realized that you can't change people, so lead an example by just being you, and then people will see the fact that you're being yourself, which is what they want to
Mm,
do, and
mm,
that's all that they need to see is somebody just saying the shit that we say, just not giving a fuck, makes them do it, and that is really all you can do, and that is a blessing. And as she
mm.
said, just being me helped her. And it's true. People want to change the whole world. They want to save every African that's starving. Just save one. That will make you feel
Yeah,
so good that you will need to save the rest,
yeah.
because
Because you
so,
can't save the
exactly
world, man. It's not
one
gonna happen.
response, one reaction is the same as helping a neighbor. One granny next door is the same
Hmm.
as one Instagram message out of millions of
Hmm.
followers. You don't need to save millions of grannies, billions of Africans, and millions of followers saying how great you are. Just one, because at the end of the day, we're a human being, or we most of our friends we count on 5 hands anyway. So six, five. What's the difference? We only need
Five
five.
hands.
We only no 5 fingers. We only need
Yeah,
five
yeah,
kind of reward systems, because that's what our friends are made up of. So why do you need fucking
yeah.
thousands of people? Right, let's end
Mm,
this. Right, I'm gonna press stop.
okay, beautiful.